What I am told is Wendy Williams wants to hire you to get out of this guardianship.
I watched your documentary. I was almost moved to tears when I watched that. I was, quite frankly, a little bit outraged. Look, when I feel people are being wrong, it gets my creative juices going.
Welcome to the Two Angry Men podcast. Harvey Levin here.
Well, I'm actually today, in honor of Joe Tacopina, we're going to call it the Three Angry Men podcast.
That is Joe. That is a high honor. Just so you know,
I'm a little nervous being on this with the two of you legends. So
you should be.
Cool.
You totally should be.
You know, Joe, I was lobbying hard last week to have you on I wanted a cage match between you and John Lewin, and I thought this was before the verdict. Ask Harvey.
No. We got to explain what this is. So Joe just won the ASAP. By the way, we're about to break some, I believe, really big news about Wendy Williams, and there is a Joe Tacopina connection, which we're going to get into in a minute. But first, Joe won the ASAP Rocky trial in a big way. But there was a moment that felt like, who's the senator? Mark Wayne, the senator who was getting in a fight during a hearing and took his wedding ring off.
Yes.
That's what it reminded me of. Joe gets in a huge fight with the prosecutor in the case, takes his jacket off, and it looks like, oh my God, they're throwing down. This is going to be great.
Well, Joe, what did you, I wanted you on with Lewin. And by the way, I would have bet you, I think the old expression, one hand tied behind your back. You could have taken.
I didn't even need a hand. I mean, that would have been your pay-per-view audience would have demanded their money back because it would have been 12 seconds, and that's only because I'd have to approach him. So I mean, that would have been the quickest fight of all time.
He may have accused you of steroids, and you may have called him Quasimodo. Did I get
something like that? You know, he did. It was look, Mark. This guy every day he came in with a new complaint, and you know who he is. This is his shtick. When I got into this case, and I've been in this for about 3 years now, almost. When Lewin came in right before the start of the trial, every lawyer in America called me. David Chesnoff, Chip Lewis, Dick Guerin, Bob Abrams from New York, a host of lawyers, Bob Shapiro from LA, a host of lawyers, including 2 lawyers from inside the district attorney's office, who all told me, be careful. This guy has issues. He's unethical. Hits below the belt. He tries to bully you. He tries to bully judges. Don't rely on his word. I was like, listen, I'm from New York. I don't get faced by this stuff. Whatever. Bring it on. And he did try all those things. I mean, I will tell you that. And what I was told was that by people in the know was that I was getting under his skin because he didn't faze me. He would start every day with a complaint to the court. And the court started saying, okay, all right, yeah, great, let's go next. And, you know, they'd start I forgot the thing was televised. Because, Mark, you know, when you're in trial, you look forward. You don't think what's behind you. You don't know about the cameras. You forget about it. Right. And they started putting all these little things together on video of me going, like every time or me going, woo, when he threatened me. And so, but it did get so crazy personal. This guy was losing his mind, and he lost the case also. And I spoke to a lot of the jurors after this case, 6 to be exact, none of whom had a lot of good things to say about him and his conduct. But there was a point in time where he was just losing his mind. And you know his reputation, his background. You know some of the issues. The Ninth Circuit just clipped him for and overturned the case based on his misrepresentations and summation, according to the Ninth Circuit. You know, the issue we had with the Durst situation after the trial, going to the Durst house and staying with Mrs. Durst. All those things, you know, and they were raised during the trial because he was getting nasty. And I responded. So he then said at one point, oh, Joe, stop taking steroids. First of all, I don't think I look like I take steroids. I'm healthy. I work out and I eat well. And I looked at it, I said, steroids? He goes, John, he goes, it's not steroids. I go to the gym every day and I eat well. You should give it a shot. Instead of donuts, grab a salad once in a while, work out just once.
Was this an open court?
Open court. Open court. The court officers couldn't stop laughing. They're like trying not to laugh. So was the judge, by the way. He's like, John,
by the way,
just work out, eat a salad once in a while, forget the donut, you fat fuck, and you won't have that hangover belly and that hunchback. And that was it. He stormed out of that courtroom I've
Oh
never,
my God.
Mark, 120 jury trials. I've never experienced, both as prosecutor defense lawyer, I've never experienced anything like this guy in my life, not anything close.
What, but isn't Mark Arnold a pleasure to try a case in front of?
He's the best. He's the absolute, you know, I did, Mark,
20 years ago, I tried a murder case in front of him when he was down in the South Bay in Torrance, and it hung, but he was, what a pleasure. I mean, our nickname for him is the Professor, because he's really a pleasurable guy to try a case in front of.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because there was such tension in that courtroom. There was so much on the line for Rocky and Brianna and the family. And then he threw the Lewin factor in. And, the other prosecutor was a nice guy. And you could tell he didn't really want much of that. And, he had the case sort of lifted from him in the last minute. And he wasn't really digging that. And some of the jurors actually said they really liked the other prosecutor. But, Judge Arnold broke that tension by adding some levity, some humanity. He actually suggested the cage match in the center of the courtroom during one of these tussles. And so I did something in this case, in my summation, Mark, that I've never done before in a case. I do this little thing at the end to empower the jury, to let them know it's their courtroom. I said, yeah, sure, it says Judge Arnold. It's Judge Arnold's courtroom. But when it comes to the facts in this case, it's your courtroom. When it comes to what was done in this case, if it was right, it's your courtroom. When it comes to who to believe in this case, it's your courtroom. Okay? And I did all that. And I said, but when I first did that part, I said, but let me stop for a second. I think it's appropriate to mention Judge Arnold. I said, trust me when I tell you, I've been around for a while. I said, we're before a judge who is really an inspiration for judges. The guy, this is who we want as a judge. Someone who has humility, intelligence, and common sense, and someone we should all be honored to be before. All of us, ladies and gentlemen. I said that in my summation before the jury. And the judge came to me later and he said, well, no one's ever said it. That was nice. And it wasn't contrived. It wasn't a ploy. It just happened. It just happened because he is such a good guy. He really is.
He really is. But I'll tell you, give your client credit, because I remember all white jury, and he gets an offer that even if you're absolutely innocent,
you take it.
9 out of 10 clients would have taken that offer.
Yeah, no, he had some onions, that's for sure. He also said to me, Joe, do we take this thing? And I said, we're going to win, but you have to make this life decision, right? But it wasn't just a 6-month offer versus, double decades in jail.
It was the probation.
It was probation. It was a plea to assault with a semi-automatic weapon, 7 years suspended sentence. It was a career ender for him. He could never travel outside the country to do concerts. His Gucci contract, Ray-Ban contract, Puma contract, it's all canceled. And it was just, and he maintained his innocence. So he's like, I'm not going to plead something I didn't do. And, it was a 1-second conversation, Mark. And it was like, yeah, great, good offer. Let's go.
So we're going to talk about Wendy in a second, but I got to say what you just said, I always kind of marvel at this in what I do, because I deal with a lot of lawyers who sometimes they just shut down and they don't want to talk about their client or their case during a trial. And to me, a lawyer represents a client for 2 reasons. 1, to get him out of a legal mess. And 2, what is their life going to be like when it's over? And a lot of lawyers don't think about what's it going to be like when it's over. And you did, and, made calculated decisions. And I'm looking at TMZ 5 days after the trial, and he's shooting, Gucci ads and
Ray-Ban.
and Ray-Ban, and he's doing the cover of, I forgot the magazine. It's a fancy magazine with Dalmatians in the street in New York. And he's back. Because you didn't just defend him in a case, you protected his career.
Yeah, no, and that was a big part of it. Look, this was so personal to me, Harvey. But it's every case. Like, people say, wow, this judge actually said to me, do you do this on every case? Like, do you turn every stone over on every case? Because my summation was 5.5 hours. My cross of their main witness, there was no meat left on the bone. I was done with him. But the preparation for that was a month, And there was nothing I left. He said, but you cover every single thing. You just do that in every case. I said, yeah, I do. Because I don't know. And Mark's the same. Mark is obviously at the top of the game. So he understands you're representing someone in a fight for their life. And it's not the death penalty, but a fight for their life. The ramifications are, he was literally going to see those two babies one last time or not see them for like over a decade. And so
one of my favorite scenes is when that not guilty came and he does flying leap into Rihanna's arms.
Mark, that was the most surreal 5 minutes for me in my life in a courtroom. I didn't know what was exactly going on. I was locked into the clerk because there was another count. Rocky apparently forgot there were 2 counts. He was gone after the first one. I didn't know he was gone. Like, I actually started to say, okay, we have one more count. And I see my partner try to go, where'd he go? And he was like he's body surfing, like in the audience. I'm like,
exactly what he did. He just did
I said to my partner, Chad, go get him. We have another count. Because now I'm starting to think like, oh my God, can you imagine
if he was found guilty on the second count?
They split the baby and they came back convicted. And we just did this. Everyone's hugging, crying, kissing. Oh, and I'm trying to get the clerk, Mark. I was asking Alex, the clerk. I'm like, count 2, same. That was a 2. Well, Rocky's
read now.
Same. And he wouldn't say a word to me. He was just staring at me. I was like, oh my God. And the judge pulled, Mark Arnold, as great as he is, he did something to me that was horribly mean. And if you want, I'll tell you about it now. But it was really, if you watch the video, you can see it. He would play a joke on me. He really did. When he got the verdict forms, I knew he sort of liked our case. I knew he had no one in that courtroom had any love lost for this complaining witness, this guy Relly. He perjured himself, admitted perjuring himself, threw water bottles, cursed in the courtroom. I mean, it was a glorious train wreck. It was a great thing for a defense attorney, but it was horrific. I told the jury, I think you just saw the worst. You had front row seats to the worst witness in American jurisprudence history. But so I think the judge definitely liked Rocky. He was a gentleman. He liked Rihanna. He obviously wasn't taking sides, but I think he would have felt bad if there was conviction on this evidence. And so he asked for the verdict form. And I see his face get the verdict forms from the jury. And he made a frown that was something awful. I was like, ooh, I don't like that face. And he then said, in a sort of an angry, very firm voice, I want the jury to confirm this verdict. I want each juror to confirm this verdict.
Wow.
Now I'm getting lightheaded, Mark. I'm like, wait a second.
Thinking, oh my God.
First of all,
plus they do that at the end usually.
Normally confirm the verdict after it's announced.
Yeah.
Then you ask, but you never, and Mark will tell you this, Harvey, there's no judge in the history of this country that confirms a not guilty verdict. It's not done. You only confirm a conviction to make sure the jurors are all, standing behind them. You don't confirm a not guilty. You just don't. There's never confirming of a not guilty. You don't poll a jury on not guilty, ever. And so when he did it, I was like, oh my God. I look over my partner, Chad. I said, ask Sarah Kaplan. I don't know if you know Sarah, Mark, but she was our local attorney. I said, Chad, ask Sarah if that's what they do here. Maybe in California they do that here. Ask Sarah. No, I see Chad bend to Sarah, and I see Sarah vigorously shaking her head no. Chad Brown looks at me with his brow gets all furrowed. I'm like, oh my God. I go, what? Now my wires are not processing this. We had a 4-week trial. We had an hour verdict. Like, it was 3 hours because they ate lunch. It was a 1-hour verdict. Ultimately, I found out they were 11-1 within 1 minute of not guilty, and within an hour, it was not guilty across the board. So I'm thinking there's no way they convicted, not in 1 hour. It's impossible on this sentence, right? So then with this happening, I'm thinking, oh my God, they may have convicted him, and I couldn't have processed this. Rocky's picking up all this stuff going on, the vibe going on, and he leans my ear, he goes, oh shit. And I go, no. I put my arm around him. I'm holding him. I go, no, bro, let's just wait. No, it's good. I'm thinking I'm going to hold him up. But I'm wondering, who's going to hold me up? Like, I'm like holding him up. I'm like, who's going to hold me up? I'm going down. You see me now. I look like the Rain Man. I was just rocking back and forth like this. Like, I was like, I don't know what to do. My brain was not processing. The judge has everyone confirming. Every juror. Now, I never look at jurors. I was staring at the jury now to see what their faces were like. Mark, they would, like, no emotion at all. Just very yes. I'm like, oh my goodness. The clerk gets it now. Now the clerk, this is about 3.5 minutes. I watched the video of this. It was torturous. Even watching it. The clerk then starts reading it. And, people of the state of California, our key mayors, Then he has to read the damn indictment number. 12 numbers. Then we, the jury, find the defendant, Akeem Mayers. And then I swear to God, you counted 30 before he said the next words. I'm looking at the clerk. I'm like, did he have a stroke? Maybe he had a stroke. Did he have? What's going on here? And then he goes, not guilty. Well, count one. Then Rocky's gone. Now, I'm now so nervous, so tense. I'm like, yeah, but count two. Something's wrong here. Count two's bad, right? I'm looking at the clerk. Rocky's gone. I don't even know it. I have my arm on, and my arm just swings back. I don't even really feel it. I find out what's going on. I grab my partner, Chad. I said, go get him. He grabs Rocky, pulls him back. I put my arm around Rocky. But we have another count. Can you please stay here until we're all done? We're almost done. Just stay here, man. And you see me talking to him, whispering in his ear. The clerk then says, I'm going to read this again. So he starts reading again. He goes, not guilty. And then everyone, Rocky, my partner, thought that was count two. They're no.
He repeated count one. That's hysterical.
Wait a minute. Everyone's so confused. Chad, my partner, goes, there's 3 counts? I'm like, no, there's not 3 counts. God. And then, so finally he read the second, not guilty. Then I looked at Rocky and go, now you can hug me. And then he hugged me. And
oh, my God. I love that.
Now, I was looking up. So the next day I go to Chambers. Judge Arnold said, I just come up, grab lunch. And I said, sure, Judge. Case was open. And I walked in Chambers. I said, so what was that about, your little thing yesterday? Why do you do that? You do that in every case with this. You read that, have the jury confirm a verdict before it's announced in open court. He goes, I do. He goes, once I had a gang case, and the gang members were convicted, and one of them got so violent, tossed the defense table up in the air, scared the hell out of the jurors. Juror number 3 said, no, that's not my verdict. After we confirmed it afterwards, she said she was so horrified that she stepped away from the verdict. So the judge said, from now on, I make them confirm the verdict first. So no matter what the reaction is, their verdict is already confirmed.
Huh.
So I said, okay.
I didn't understand it, but now I do. Hey, listen. Okay.
That makes sense.
We got to get into something.
Wait, but Harvey, no. I have to tell you this first. I said to him, okay, that explains that. What was this thing about confirming not guilty? You know, no one ever confirms not guilty verdict. Why do you do that? He goes, I don't. I said, you don't? Were you in the courtroom yesterday when you did that? I said, no. He goes, oh, yeah. I was just effing with you. I was effing with you.
Oh, that's hysterical.
I'm going to murder you. I said, I'm going to murder you. Are you kidding me? I was like, oh, my God. So,
oh, my God.
It was quite the ordeal.
Well, congratulations. Okay. So I have sources, and I think they're good. In fact, I know they're good. And what I am told is that Wendy Williams wants to hire you, and may have already done it, but I know that there's a process to do it, but she wants to hire you, Joe, to get out of this guardianship. And I have good sources.
Joe going to take the 5th?
Was that I don't know, was that a statement or a question?
I was just kind of leaving it open for you.
Oh, okay. I'm sure your sources are very good. That's great. Listen, here's all I'll say about that. I watched your documentary, Saving Wendy, and I was like almost moved to tears when I watched that, Harvey, because I've known Wendy through people. Rosanna Scotto, who's a good friend of mine. We grew up in Brooklyn together.
She's in the documentary. I
know. I saw it. Charlemagne from The Breakfast Club. I know, well, he knows Wendy. I mean, a lot of people I know know Wendy. And I thought it was just a sad thing that this happened to her. And then I saw your documentary. And I was, quite frankly, a little bit outraged. I mean, you did an amazing job, by the way, Harvey, honest to God. And I know you weren't necessarily advocating for it. You were just throwing out facts there. One of the best things you did were you started tossing current events at her, like in no particular order, sort of to test her, to see where she was here mentally. She was, I mean, you put nothing by her. There was that was a long and lengthy conversation that took on emotional tones. It took on serious tones. It took on factually intense tones. And there was absolutely nothing about that made me think, oh my God, this lady needs to be locked away in a ward where she can't, receive calls, cannot leave whenever she wants to leave.
No internet, no visitors.
I mean, there are people who have committed murder who have actually more freedom than Wendy Williams. And there's something fundamentally wrong with that. I mean, the American civil liberties shouldn't talk about dignity in human beings and dignity in making errors. We are allowed to make mistakes as human beings. And Wendy obviously went through a point in time where she was a horrific alcoholic. I mean, your documentary laid that out too, and so did that Lifetime piece, right? Laid that out. She looked horrific. Didn't put her in a flattering light, but clearly she was drinking. There were empty bottles by her bed every night. It seemed like. What they claimed she had, that frontal lobal dementia,
frontotemporal dementia,
that one. It's something that, going to the neurologist on your show and anything I've ever read, does not get better over time. It deteriorates. It 100% deteriorates over time. Neurologically, it's impossible to improve. It gets worse. That was 2024, the Lifetime documentary. What you saw in your documentary, which was a year later, she was the old Wendy Williams. And so clearly, I think what we were talking about was maybe alcohol-induced dementia, which, by the way, shares the same characteristics as the other dementia, the frontal lobal dementia. I think there's a really misdiagnosis here, and I just don't understand. And I have to look into it. I really do, Harvey. And I've spoken to them, and look, when I feel something's wrong, and I feel people are being wrong, it gets my gander up, and it gets my creative juices going, and I really feel horrible for her. I really do. It's a sad thing. And your show, I mean, she cried, and then she was worried about crying because she thought that would negatively impact her assessment. But that was great, because you actually said to her, yeah, Wendy, if you weren't crying at this point, something would be wrong. And, so the fact that she actually had the cognitive awareness to say, well, I'm afraid that the crying is going to impact me negatively, showed me a lot. So
she's the old Wendy Williams. And yeah, you're right. I mean, look, I don't want to be an advocate, but I can't ignore the facts. She is the old Wendy Williams. Why is she in a guardianship? I don't understand it. There was a reason for it before. That reason is evaporated. And that's, to me, almost just factual. Yet, the guardian and the judge, for some reason, they want to keep her in this guardianship, Joe. And that's why I'm asking you, because ultimately this could be a jury trial to get her out. And that has Joe Tacopina written all over it.
Joe, I hate to be a cynic, but I always suspected in other high-profile conservatorships that it's financially driven. Do you have that suspicion?
Mark, I don't. I can't say that. I mean, I've listened to people who firmly believe that in this case. I don't want to make that, because I need to really understand it more. But I will say this, obviously the guardian's getting paid to maintain her position as a guardian. But when you're talking about the goal of a guardianship, and the goal of a guardian is for someone who is as young as Wendy, they're not supposed to be permanent guardianship. But the goal, the guardian is the last resort when you're talking about someone, especially someone that young. So it's not really what's supposed to be happening for good. And if you're listening to her, she clearly has the ability to function, to make life decisions. Does she need a sobriety coach? I think she's the first to admit it. She does. Even though she's clean now, she's sober now, she's an alcoholic, and she'll always be an alcoholic. And I think she needs to have a sobriety coach, and I think she would be the first to say that. I think she also said that she probably needs someone to monitor her finances.
Hey, guys, I'm literally sitting here, and somebody from Wendy's camp just sent me this. Vanity Fair just posted a long article on Wendy and the documentary and Sabrina Morrissey, the Guardian. And I'm looking, I mean, it's so long, but she apparently speaks in this. Morrissey and the guardianship are often misunderstood. In her view, the aim is to maximize a person's ability to make choices, at least within her boundaries of safety and bureaucratic constraint. Quote, I had one woman who all she wanted to do is listen to Frank Sinatra. If she said to me, I'm going to stand here and jump out the window, we wouldn't let her do that. Well, I don't understand how that relates to Wendy Williams. It's a long article.
Just came out?
It just literally, as you were talking, it just got sent to me.
So Harvey, it appears from your reading that it's a piece supporting the guardianship.
I don't know enough. I mean, they go through the documentary for a long time, and I just scanned it when you were talking. But apparently Sabrina's talking. I don't understand what they're saying. They keep saying that that Wendy has gotten worse. And I don't understand. I've spoken to her for so many hours, Joe. I don't understand how they could say that, because it's not the case.
You know, one of the things that judge cited for her getting worse is that she continually in court kept using the phrase, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
As indicia that she has mental lapses, that she doesn't know how to put words together. Her thoughts are broken, and she uses that as a filler. You know, if you know Wendy Williams, you know that's what she's said for the last 30 years. That's sort of a mannerism. That's a tick. That's something she says.
It's a feature. It's a feature and not a bug.
It's a feature, not. But you did something perfect. You showed her show from last 15 years where she's actually said that routinely on almost every show for the last 2 decades.
Every 20 seconds.
Every 20 seconds. That and how you doing? Right. That's her.
How you doing? How you doing is a signature.
Right. That's her thing. So the fact that was used by the judge to further solidify a guardianship makes me concerned a little bit.
Breaking news, Joe. While we're sitting here, and I noticed about 2 weeks ago, I saw you mention Charlemagne, and I saw you do a appearance there that you'd looked at Diddy's case, and then I saw, I think maybe I've got them mixed up, but I saw you would analyze, because you'd done an interview with Harvey actually for TMZ.
Yeah.
And as we're sitting here, my phone is blowing up because they just superseded on Diddy another indictment.
Jesus. Aren't they scheduled for trial? And your daughter's trying that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
scheduled for a May trial.
It was fascinating to me to listen to you, because separate, we had not talked, even though we were supposed to talk.
Right.
But you came to the same conclusion I did after reading this stuff. The disconnect between what's out there. I was watching the Amber Rose interview with on Club Shay Shay, and she's saying, I don't know where these freak offs were at the Diddy party. I never got invited to that. Right. I've been to a Diddy party every single year, and I've never got invited. And then you look at, as you did, and I did, because I read the bail hearings. I wanted to see how Potter did, how Agnifilo did. And I'm looking, and the government's not alleging anything that's out there at all. And it's wild to me, the difference between what the public perception, they've turned him into Black Epstein, and it's not that. It's the guy's done some threesomes with his girlfriends.
And until and unless I hear, Mark, and I said this to Harvey, I think last week, that someone had a gun to their head and was compelled to do it, they were drugged to the point that they couldn't give consent, or that they were minors, right?
Right.
Everyone wanted to be part of it. Everyone wanted to be part of a Diddy party. Everyone wanted to be involved. And the people who were part of these freak-offs, from my understanding, did it willingly, and some of them got massive benefits for it. Cars, rent payments, whatever, but they didn't have to accept the car. They could have said, I'm not doing that freak off thing. Well, I'm not going to pay for your car then. Okay, don't pay for my car. Actually, I think I've heard the government argue that he was holding that over their heads. They weren't entitled to get him to pay for their cars. So they didn't have to accept that. I mean, it's amazing to me that it was consensual. Look, this whole case rises and falls on the issue of consent, period, end of story. End of story. And unless I see something that shows a lack of consent, powerfully, because look, for 20 years you were silent, 15 years you were silent, you had no problem coming back again and again, taking his cars, letting him pay for your house, no problem with that. Then when someone sues and gets money, all of a sudden, me too. Come on.
How do you then square the Cassie video with the issue of consent?
The Cassie video is a domestic violence case, and that's a bad domestic violence case, and that's disgusting. And it is disgusting. that is nothing to do with a freak off.
It may not, but it certainly is going to impact the jury.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's the point. That's the point. But Mark
ask Joe. We've had a recent case in New York where there was an expired misdemeanor.
Yep.
A prosecutor decided they were going to come up with a creative felony theory, and that person was tried in New York. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I'll bet you Joe does, because Joe represented and beat his rape charge. But the 34 count Donald Trump prosecution were misdemeanors that expired. And mind you, the DA at the time when that tape came out said, that's a domestic violence. The statute is run. The prosecutors in New York then came up with this RICO theory, as if this guy who was wildly successful, billionaire black businessman, was self-made on Forbes covers, all of a sudden, that was a criminal enterprise after the fact. They took an expired misdemeanor and they made it into felonies. And I said, how is that any different than what they did, what Alvin Bragg did to Donald Trump?
It's not. And again, the fact that that's the thing you keep seeing when you hear about the Diddy indictment, the thing everyone keeps hearing about, looking at, and talking about is the Cassie video. The Cassie video has nothing to do with the trafficking charges, the lack of consent charges, the sexual abuse charge, nothing.
Yet Mark Agnifilo, his lawyer, along with Tenny, your daughter, Mark says he expects it's going to be admitted into evidence.
Oh, no doubt that's coming in.
So once it gets in and the jury sees it,
Joe, has the mother of the judge been born that would exclude that
right.
video? The
please. In the Trump trial, they played the Access Hollywood video literally once a day. We start out the day with them saying, Judge, we'd like to play the Access Hollywood video. Yeah. Well, okay, there's no reason. We're just going to keep playing it every day.
Exactly. Your Honor, we haven't played it in 2 days. Can we play it again?
An actor stood up at one point and said, Judge.
But he was convicted.
In what? Trump?
Well, in the criminal case.
But they didn't know. The criminal case, they didn't play that Access Hollywood videotape. They just let them read the transcript, not play it, which was different. In my case, the one where he was found not liable for rape, don't forget, that's a 51% preponderance of the evidence standard, not the proof beyond a reasonable doubt in criminal case standard. The jury found him not liable for rape. But in that one, they played that tape like every day just to play it. I said, like, Judge, we want to play the tape today. Okay. I'd be like, Your Honor, I think it's been played enough. I think we're approaching the point where the prejudicial value is outweighing the probative value. He'd be like, very cognitive and very impressive argument, Mr. being denied. Play the tape.
Okay, but I got a question for both of you guys then. If I'm the prosecutor in that case, and I'm listening to the defense saying there was consent, she always consented, this is on the heels of a freak-off. And the argument I'd make is, does it look like she's consenting? Does it look like she's game to do what he wanted her to do? And I mean, then the jury's going to receive that.
That's if, Harvey, that what the prosecution alleges is true as opposed to what the defense said at the bail hearing. Right. Take a look at what the differences are. If she was saying I was leaving because of sex, then you might have a point, but that's apparently not what she said. And I think I go back to one point with Joe. Joe got President Trump found not liable for the rape. Because of that, Joe, he collected $15 million from ABC. Did you get a contingency on
ABC?
ABC. Stephanopoulos continued to call him a rapist. I was like, you're making a mistake. But, he kept doing it. Mark, that's a really good point. Would you be able to represent me?
I would take that on. You should get the contingency on that.
I thought that same exact thing, but I did get a congratulations. I didn't get 1/3 of the 15 million, but I did get a congratulations. So it was, about the same. And I had a couple of signed MAGA hats.
So I'm going to circle back to what Harvey.
I have no complaints with President Trump. He treated me well, and so it's not an issue. Obviously, that was a different case. He deserved those damages because George Stephanopoulos, just shockingly and recklessly, said he was a rapist. I mean, this is a journalist, a seasoned journalist who understands a jury said not liable for rape. What did he think? That we would everyone was just going to be like, whatever, rapist.
Whatever, I'm a rapist. Well,
so I want to get back to.
Harvey, are you gonna
But can I
ask
say something, Harvey? On that tape, the Cassie tape.
Yeah.
What Mark's daughter and Agnifilo are going to do is what they'll do is they'll embrace that tape. They have to, because it's coming in. There's no way it's not coming in. And what they're going to do is embrace it and look at it. And you want a smart jury. You want a jury, and you're going to say to that jury, this is because there's a void where the evidence should be. They keep showing you this because this is trying to get them to play to your emotions. They're trying to overwhelm you with clearly something that's a despicable act on behalf of our client, but is not proof of sex trafficking, of all these horrific things they allegedly did. But that's what they want you to focus on, because they don't have proof of that. I'd embrace that tape hard because it does show that they're grasping at straws in one regard.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? They're going to play that tape repeatedly. That tape is an act of domestic violence.
But how are you how is the defense embracing the tape?
Because it's coming in, Harvey. So instead of saying, "Oh my God, this is horrible," and close your eyes when it comes in, it's coming in. So now you have to deal with it. So the way you deal with it is saying, "I'm going to embrace this." You have to say, "This is horrific. It's disgusting. There's no excuse for our client's conduct in this. There's no excuse." That is a domestic dispute between a couple who've been together for a long time. That's what that is. It's wrong, but that's not what he's on trial for. He's on trial for sex trafficking. He's on trial for all these different things. Not that. But they keep showing you this tape because they want you to be overwhelmed by emotions. By what that tape brings is serious emotions, a reaction from anybody with a heart and brain. But that is meant to replace the void where the evidence should be. Because there's no evidence of sex trafficking. That's what they're going to use. And that's what I would do if I were representing him. Mark, do you agree?
It was exactly my reaction. The parallels to the Trump case to me are overwhelming, that you just take something and that is expired, and then you try to get the emotion to kind of swell over it and hope that people ignore the evidence. And by the way, how many times am I going to hear minors and minors? There's no minors. These were 3 girlfriends by everybody's by what everybody claims, at least on the record.
No, I agree. I mean, it's again, I want to see how they present this. I would like to see their evidence in this case, but I don't know it all. So let's say this: I based on what I've seen, what I've read in the bail hearing, based on the arguments I've seen in court, and the evidence that's been disclosed, I don't know, what they're really going to present. Now, I've heard, Mark, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, I've heard that there may be, testimony from then minors at the time. That would be a different story, obviously. But I don't know if that's accurate or not. So who knows?
Hey, guys, can we go back to Wendy for a second? One of my producers actually went through this Vanity Fair article, and I want to read you a couple of things and get your opinions about this. About Wendy's ability to leave the building. Nobody's saying that Wendy can't leave a building. This is Sabrina Morrissey, The Guardian. Wendy's 2 trips to Florida for her son's college graduation and her father's 94th birthday. But this has become a thread. Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm going to weigh in on this. The judge, I'm told, and I'm getting this through Wendy, the judge initially said she couldn't go to Florida for her dad's 94th birthday and reversed it after the documentary came out. She was able to go for 2 days. Yeah, the judge allowed her to go for her son's graduation. That said, in the 30 days before my interview with her, which was on January 20th, she had been outside to get fresh air twice, both times to go to the dentist. And she is on the 5th floor memory unit, even though she doesn't have a problem with her memory, where you have to get somebody to turn the key to let you go downstairs. And she says she can't even go to the gym, much less outside. So the notion of saying, well, yeah, we let her go to 2 places. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, Joe.
No.
This set me off.
You're right. First of all, she was initially, what I've been told, she was initially denied the trip to her father's 94th
That's right.
birthday party. I mean, again,
big deal. She got to go for 2 days.
even they even let mob bosses go out on furloughs for a funeral or something like that, right? This is a woman who
she's a prisoner in this room.
Yeah, I don't listen. This is not my world. I never will want.
Well, it is yours now, from what I understand.
But listen. When I feel someone's being so wronged, and this outrage, your documentary put in place. I spoke to Wendy also, and we spoke for an hour. And I was waiting for her to repeat herself. I was waiting for her to say, "Who is this?" By the way, I was waiting for anything. Mark, I was looking for it. I was like probing a little bit to see. My God, there was nothing, not even a little thing. She was citing things from 20 years ago, and it was. Because if she needed help, I wanted to help her get help. Like initially, I was thinking maybe I should support her.
So can I ask, or will you answer? Are you repping her?
No, right now I'm not doing anything. I'm not disputing Harvey's statement that he made earlier because it wasn't a question; it was a statement. But we'll see what happens. I just, I do like to be involved in matters that of importance to me, where I feel particularly a sense of injustice is happening, whether it's something like this or a criminal case or a civil case. Mark, like you, I mean, it's what we went to law school for, right? I mean,
so Mark, let me show you how a reporter would handle this at this point.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So let's look at this from a different angle, Joe. I know that the judge has to approve a new lawyer coming on, and I also know Wendy wants you. So in the event the judge says, yeah, you can come on the case and represent her, would you entertain or even advocate a jury trial where jurors could decide if Wendy Williams should go free?
That's who I think needs to decide this. I'm not that comfortable with the judges and the guardians and the relationships inside of that world deciding Wendy Williams' fate. A jury should decide. This is a jury of peers, because I've not heard or seen a lot of people after watching your documentary, after hearing her on Charlemagne's, interview on the Breakfast Club, thinking, geez, this woman needs to be locked away. She's really not good. She's Wendy Williams. She's the same Wendy Williams that used to do a talk show 10 years ago, and sounds that same person. She doesn't miss a beat. So I don't know what happened. I don't know how she got to this position. I don't know why she's still in this position. But yeah, a jury trial is where it's at, as far as I'm concerned. And if there's a way to make that happen, that definitely should happen, because I think it will be a quicker verdict than the ASAP Rocky verdict.
Is it something? Is it something Harvey, you would? Is it something you would want to do?
Harvey, that was the journalist question. Now the lawyer will actually.
Okay. Well, I'm a lawyer too, Mark.
Yes. Well, I know. Charles has a pretty good line about that. But Joe, in order to make the application, you would have to have a retainer agreement signed. Has that happened?
No, it hasn't. Not yet.
Why are you smiling?
So it's a good question.
Okay. When you try this before the jury, will you keep your coat on?
When I try, as long as Lewin's not on the other side. I swear to God, I didn't take the jacket off to fight Lewin. Because he was blowing such hot air that the court was literally getting hot.
I swear I wanted Lewin. I wanted Lewin and Joe on at the same time in the worst way.
Oh, it was just. Here's the one thing I wanted to do. Just when the verdict came in, I'm not someone to gloat. Okay, I'm not someone. I just don't do it. And I find it cheesy, but I did want to just at least look at him, because almost every day he was mocking our defense. He was telling me this jury's not good for you. I guess in reference to the fact that we didn't have a black on the veneer. I didn't say hello to a black person in jury selection. Okay, in downtown Los Angeles, where OJ had 8. Okay, we didn't even say hello. But I didn't care, because we had smart people. I literally had a rocket scientist on my jury. A rocket scientist was on my jury. I thought that was just a phrase. When you say, I'm not a rocket scientist, there was a scientist who built rocket ships on my jury. And I wanted that. I wanted really smart people who understood and could embrace the concept of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, what that exactly means. And I just looked over after the second not guilty, after I was getting chokehold by Rocky and almost lost consciousness. I looked over to see Lewin, just wanted to see that face one more time. Gone. I mean, he must have heard the second N of the not guilty and disappeared. Took his little rolly bag and got out, because he was gone. The detectives were still there. The other prosecutor was still there. Lewin was gone. So it was just, it's a shame. I never got to say goodbye to him.
Okay, well, look, let's
Mhm.
bring this to an end. Joe, when you take the Wendy Williams case, do you have a timeline on this? Is this going to be something sooner rather than later?
Well, that's a bunch of hypotheticals going on right there.
I don't think so.
No, objection calls for respect.
Oh, would you stop
Sustained.
objecting?
Sustained.
You
Sustained.
don't represent the guy, Mark. Jesus.
Let's go for speculation. It's a compound question. It calls for speculation.
I can reframe it if you want.
Try.
Oh, you want me to?
What did the judges say? Move on, Mr. Levin.
Will this be fast?
Exactly.
Will your decision come sooner rather than later on whether you'll represent her?
Assumes the fact, not evidence.
Right.
Objection.
Yeah. There you go. See?
What facts, not evidence?
Well, your representation, it assumes the fact that I'm already representing her.
No, I said, will you make the
That's
decision to represent her sooner rather than later?
Still assumes the fact on evidence. I'm going to make a decision, but I'll give you that one.
Oh my God.
I'll make a decision.
You guys are impossible.
I'll make a decision.
Joe, it's a pleasure.
Thanks.
Joe.
Guys, you guys are awesome, man. This is so much fun. I had the most fun doing this. So if you ever need a third wheel, just count me in, the third angry man.
You're our go-to third angry man.
To get into sex trafficking. So
you guys are the best. I love you guys.
Okay, guys. Thanks again.
Bye.